Amidst this sea of glittering wealth, Anya stood, black uniform, a tray laden with champagne flutes held steady despite the tremor that ran through her. Her job at the Gilded Lily, one of the city's most exclusive event venues, demanded invisibility. She was meant to glide through the shadows, a silent provider of drinks and canapés. Tonight was a particularly grand affair, a charity gala hosted by the enigmatic billionaire, Mr. Tariq Al Maktoum. Rumors swirled around him like a storm, of his immense wealth, his reclusive nature, and his unpredictable whims. He was a man who moved mountains with a phone call and reshaped industries with a single decree. Anya had heard the whispers. Of course, everyone had. But they were just stories, distant thunder in a world that felt impossibly far from her own. She navigated through the throng, her movements practiced and efficient. A delicate hand reached out for a glass, and Anya expertly placed it on the tray. Another guest, a woman, nodded curtly, her attention already back on the man beside her, a politician known for his smooth promises and empty hands. Anya felt a familiar pang, a quiet ache for a life that wasn't defined by service and anonymity. Her dreams felt like faded photographs, locked away in a dusty album. She longed for something more, something real, but the practicalities of life, rent, bills, her younger sister's medical expenses, kept her tethered to this reality. As she neared a cluster of men in deep conversation, their voices a low rumble, she overheard fragments of their talk. Unprecedented deal. $5 billion. Al Maktoum is ruthless, but brilliant. Anya subtly adjusted her grip on the tray, careful not to spill a drop. Her gaze flickered towards the center of the room, where a figure stood slightly apart from the others. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored dark suit that seemed to absorb the light. His features were sharp, aristocratic, with piercing, dark eyes that missed nothing. There was an aura of quiet power about him, an almost predatory stillness that commanded attention without demanding it. This, she assumed, was Tariq Al Maktoum. He hadn't spoken a word since entering the ballroom an hour ago, yet his presence was palpable. He observed the scene with an intensity that was both unnerving and compelling. Anya's heart gave an odd little flutter, a sensation she quickly suppressed. It was foolish to be distracted. Her focus needed to be on the tray, on the next guest, on the end of her shift. She turned to move towards the bar, a small, discreet alcove where she could replenish her stock, when a voice, smooth as aged whiskey, cut through the ambient noise. It wasn't loud, but it carried an authority that made heads turn. "You," the voice said. Anya stopped. She looked around, assuming it wasn't directed at her. Waitresses were often ignored, spoken over, or mistaken for furniture. "Yes, you. The one with the tray," the voice clarified, a hint of amusement in its tone. Slowly, Anya turned. The voice belonged to Tariq Al Maktoum. He was standing just a few feet away, his gaze fixed directly on her. His eyes were even more intense up close, dark pools that seemed to hold ancient secrets. Anya felt a blush creep up her neck. It wasn't often that a guest, let alone the host, acknowledged her existence. "Sir?" Anya managed, her voice a little shaky. He took a slow step closer, his gaze unwavering. The men who had been speaking to him fell silent, their curiosity piqued. Anya felt a sudden pressure, as if the entire room had shrunk to just the two of them. "I've been watching you," Tariq Al Maktoum said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Yet it still held that captivating resonance. "You move with purpose. You are efficient. And you do not, I notice, engage in the pointless chatter that occupies most people here." Anya blinked, unsure how to respond. Was this a compliment? Or was it the prelude to a complaint about her service? "Thank you, sir. I try to be professional." He offered a faint smile, a subtle curve of his lips that transformed his stern face. "Professionalism is a rare commodity. But I'm not interested in your professionalism, not entirely." He paused, his dark eyes seeming to bore into her soul. The air around them crackled with an unspoken energy. Anya felt a prickle of unease, mixed with an undeniable fascination. What did he want? "I offer a proposition," Tariq Al Maktoum said, his voice dropping further, drawing Anya in. "A business proposition, of sorts. Though it may seem unconventional." Anya's brow furrowed. "A business proposition?" With me, sir? Precisely, he confirmed. I require a wife. The words hung in the air, absurdly out of place. Anya's breath hitched. She nearly dropped the tray. The champagne flutes rattled precariously. Laughter from the nearby guests seemed to mock her stunned silence. A wife? This powerful, impossibly wealthy man wanted a wife? And he was discussing it with her, a waitress in a black uniform. Sir, I don't understand, Anya stammered, her mind reeling. This had to be a joke. A cruel, elaborate prank. Tariq al-Maktoum observed her reaction with an unreadable expression. I am not a man who wastes words or time. I have observed many women at these events. Women of status, women of supposed breeding. None have captured my attention. But you. There is something about you. He gestured vaguely at the room, at the simpering smiles and vacant eyes. They are all performers. They seek wealth, status, a name. They offer nothing of substance. You, on the other hand, seem real, grounded. There's a quiet strength in your eyes. Anya felt a wave of heat flood her face. She was being appraised, judged, not on her charm or her connections, but on something she couldn't quite grasp. It was disorienting. I am just a waitress, sir. I serve drinks. I have no status, no wealth. And that, precisely, is the appeal, Tariq al-Maktoum stated, his voice gaining a subtle intensity. I do not want a woman who is driven by greed. I do not want a woman who will be swayed by flattery or the promise of riches. I want a partner, someone who can see beyond the surface, someone with integrity. And you, Anya, I believe you possess that. He knew her name. He'd found out her name. The thought sent a shiver down her spine, not entirely unpleasant. My offer is simple, he continued, stepping even closer, his voice a low murmur now, meant only for her ears. Marry me. Be my wife. In return, I will ensure your financial security and the security of your family for generations. You will never have to worry about money again. You will have access to the finest things, the best education, the greatest opportunities, but you must do it willingly. You must accept my proposal. Anya stared at him, speechless. Her mind raced, trying to process the sheer magnitude of what he was saying. Marry him? A man she'd known for 5 minutes? A man who was a legend in the business world? A figure cloaked in mystery and power? It was insane. It was impossible. Yet, the sincerity in his eyes, the calm certainty in his voice, was disarming. He wasn't making a demand. He was making an offer. A life-altering offer. Why me? Anya finally managed to whisper, the question raw with disbelief. There are so many women here. Women who would do anything for a fraction of what I offer. Tariq al-Maktoum finished for her, his gaze never leaving hers. And that is precisely why I cannot choose them. Their motives are too obvious, too predictable. You, Anya, are an unknown quantity, a blank slate. I want to build something with someone who isn't already defined by ambition or by their past circumstances. I want someone who can surprise me. He reached into his inner jacket pocket and produced a small, sleek card. It wasn't a business card, but something far more exclusive. This is my private number, my personal address. If you accept my proposal, contact me. If you decline, forget this conversation ever happened. I will not press you. He held the card out to her. Anya's hand trembled as she reached for it. The card felt cool and smooth against her fingertips. It was a simple black rectangle with embossed silver lettering, Tariq al-Maktoum. Beneath it, a single, private phone number. Think about it, Anya. Tariq al-Maktoum said, his voice soft but firm. This is not a transaction. It is an opportunity. For both of us. I will be at my private estate on the coast for the next week. If you decide to accept, you know where to find me. If not, he shrugged, a gesture of finality. Then we simply continue as if this moment never occurred. He gave her a brief, almost imperceptible nod, then turned and rejoined the stream of guests, leaving Anya standing alone. The small black card clutched tightly in her hand, the opulent ballroom suddenly feeling like a gilded cage. The music swelled, the laughter continued, but for Anya, the world had just tilted on its axis. The scent of expensive perfume and champagne suddenly seemed suffocating. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the symphony of the night. She looked down at the card, then back at the retreating figure of Tariq al-Maktoum, a man who had just offered her a life she could only dream of, in exchange for a promise she never thought she'd be asked to make. The sheer audacity of it was breathtaking. Was this a fantasy, a test, or the beginning of something entirely unimaginable? The weight of the decision pressed down on her, heavier than any tray she had ever carried. She glanced at the card again, the silver lettering glinting under the chandelier light. An opportunity, he had called it. An opportunity for what? A life of luxury? A gilded prison? Or something more? The music seemed to fade, replaced by the deafening roar of her own thoughts. She had a choice to make, a choice that would redefine her entire existence. And the clock, she felt, had already begun to tick. The whispers began almost immediately, even before Anya had fully processed the encounter. A few of the guests, particularly those who had been speaking to al-Maktoum, had noticed the exchange. Their eyes, sharp and judgmental, followed Anya as she tried to regain her composure and resume her duties. She could feel their scrutiny, their speculation. What had the enigmatic billionaire said to the humble waitress? Had he complimented her service? Asked for her opinion on the champagne? Or perhaps, had he been making some sort of overture, some inappropriate remark? The possibilities, in their minds, were endless and fueled by their own insecurities and desires. Anya focused on her task, her movements becoming almost robotic. She poured more champagne, offered hors d'oeuvres, her smile polite but distant. Inside, however, a tempest raged. Tariq al-Maktoum's words echoed in her mind. Marry me. The sheer audacity of it, the absurdity. Yet, there was a gravity to his proposal, a seriousness that couldn't be dismissed as mere drunken fancy. He was not a man known for jesting, especially not in public. He was known for his precision, his foresight, his unwavering control. Why her? Why now? She thought of her younger sister, Maya. Maya, with her bright eyes and her unwavering belief in Anya's ability to solve any problem. Maya, whose illness had cast a long shadow over their lives, draining their meager savings and leaving Anya with a constant knot of worry. The medical bills were a mountain, each statement a fresh blow. Anya worked 2 jobs, her life a relentless cycle of exhaustion and obligation. The thought of Maya, safe, healthy, and free from the constant burden of illness, was Anya's most cherished dream. Al-Maktoum's offer, as outlandish as it was, dangled that dream before her like a glittering prize. But the cost? To marry a stranger? To enter a world of immense wealth and power, a world she knew nothing about? It felt like stepping off a cliff into the unknown. She knew nothing of Tariq al-Maktoum's personal life, his history, his temperament beyond the public persona. Was he a man capable of kindness, or was he a tyrant who expected absolute obedience? The idea of being bound to him, of relinquishing her independence, was a chilling prospect. Anya discreetly slipped the black card into the inner pocket of her uniform. It felt like a small, dangerous secret. As she continued to serve, her senses were heightened. She caught snippets of conversations. Did you see al-Maktoum talking to that waitress? One woman in a diamond necklace whispered to her companion, her voice laced with disdain. Ghastly. I wonder what he was thinking. The other replied, fanning herself dramatically. Probably a pity offer. He must have seen how poor she looked. Anya flinched inwardly. Poverty was a brand they could see from a mile away. They saw her worn uniform, her simple shoes, and assumed the worst. They couldn't comprehend the quiet dignity she tried to maintain, the resilience she cultivated. Later, as the night began to wind down, Anya saw Tariq al-Maktoum once more. He was standing by a large window, looking out at the city lights, a solitary figure against the vast panorama. He turned as if sensing her gaze, his eyes finding hers across the crowded room. He offered a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement, before turning back to the view. The unspoken message was clear. The offer remained open. When her shift finally ended, Anya walked home through the cool night air, the city lights blurring around her. The small card in her pocket felt like a burning ember. Sleep eluded her. She lay in her cramped apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying the encounter over and over. The ballroom, the chandeliers, the whispered words, Tariq al-Maktoum's intense gaze. His proposition, marry me, and I'll make you the richest woman in the world. It was a line straight out of a fairy tale, or perhaps a cautionary tale. But this was real life, and the man who said it was real. She thought of Maya, her gentle smile, her fragile health. Anya's responsibility to her sister was paramount. Could she afford to ignore such an offer, however unconventional, if it meant securing Maya's future? Could she afford not to? The fear was palpable, a cold dread that coiled in her stomach. Fear of the unknown, fear of making the wrong choice, fear of losing herself in a world of unimaginable luxury and power. But beneath the fear, a flicker of something else ignited, a spark of curiosity, a nascent hope, a desire for a life beyond the endless struggle. She looked at the card again, tracing the embossed silver letters. She had a choice. She could dismiss it all as a strange, fleeting dream, a bizarre encounter at a lavish party, or she could take a leap of faith, a gamble that could change everything. The weight of the decision was immense, pressing down on her, forcing her to confront the deepest desires and fears she held within. The opulence of the ballroom, the detached expressions of the wealthy guests, the enigmatic presence of Tariq al-Maktoum. It all swirled in her mind, a potent cocktail of intrigue and temptation. She was a waitress, a nobody in their eyes, yet he had seen something in her, something worth proposing marriage to. It was a thought that was both terrifying and exhilarating. The path ahead was shrouded in mist, but the possibility of a different future, a future free from the chains of her current reality, beckoned. The first rays of dawn began to paint the sky in hues of orange and pink as Anya finally drifted into a fitful sleep, the black card still clutched in her hand. The decision, however, had already begun to form, a fragile seedling pushing through the hardened earth of her doubts. The opulence she had witnessed, the stark contrast to her own life, the sheer, unbelievable proposition, it had all planted a seed of possibility. She had always been a planner, a pragmatist, but this situation defied all logic. It was a gamble of epic proportions, a choice between the known hardships of her present and the terrifying, yet alluring, unknowns of a life transformed. The silence of her small apartment seemed to amplify the questions swirling in her mind. What did Tariq al-Maktoum truly want? Was this a calculated move, a test of character, or something else entirely? The mystery was as potent as the promise of wealth. She was a young woman who had learned to be self-reliant, resourceful, and often invisible. Now, a powerful man had seen her, truly seen her, and made an offer that shattered the confines of her world. The card, a tangible link to that surreal encounter, was a constant reminder of the precipice she stood upon. To marry, or not to marry? To embrace the fairy tale or retreat into the predictable, albeit difficult, reality she knew. The questions were relentless, each one a tug-of-war between her ingrained caution and a yearning for a life where her sister, Maya, could finally be free from suffering. The memory of Tariq al-Maktoum's intense gaze, his quiet confidence, his unnerving sincerity, was etched into her mind. He wasn't pleading. He was offering a partnership. A bizarre, unexpected partnership. She knew nothing of his heart, his true nature, only the reputation of a man who commanded empires. Could she trust him? Could she even begin to understand him? The sheer social chasm between them was vast, a gulf filled with unspoken rules and expectations. Yet, he had seen past the uniform, past the perceived poverty, to something within her that he deemed valuable. That in itself was a revelation, a validation she hadn't realized she desperately needed. The weight of her sister's illness was a constant, heavy burden. Anya had shouldered it stoically for years, her own dreams deferred, her own needs secondary. Now, a potential lifeline had been thrown, albeit a very strange one. The thought of Maya receiving the best medical care, of her laughter echoing through a spacious, sunlit room instead of a sterile hospital ward, was a powerful motivator. It was Maya's well-being that made the impossible seem negotiable. She thought about the life he promised, not just wealth, but opportunities. Education, travel, a chance to explore the world beyond the confines of her cramped neighborhood and demanding jobs. It was a life she had long ago dismissed as unattainable, a fantasy for other people. But what if it wasn't? What if this was her chance? A chance to escape the relentless cycle of struggle, to provide for Maya, and perhaps, just perhaps, to discover who Anya truly was outside the role of a dutiful older sister and a discreet waitress. The sheer nerve of the man, offering marriage like one might offer a business contract, was almost admirable in its audacity. He hadn't tried to charm her, hadn't flattered her, hadn't made empty promises. He had stated his need and presented his offer, leaving the choice entirely in her hands. It was a strange form of respect, she supposed, in its own unconventional way. But respect or not, the stakes were impossibly high. Her entire future, her sister's future, rested on this decision. The ballroom had been a glittering spectacle, a world of privilege she'd only ever glimpsed from the periphery. Now, she held a golden ticket, a key that could unlock that world, or perhaps lead her into a gilded cage. The fear of making a mistake, of being trapped, of being exploited, warred with the desperate hope for a better life. The city outside her window was waking up, the sounds of traffic beginning to fill the air. Anya knew she couldn't stay in this state of indecision forever. The card felt warm in her hand, a potent symbol of the crossroads she faced. The words, "Marry me, and I'll make you the richest woman in the world," echoed in her mind, no longer just a shocking statement, but a question that demanded an answer that would irrevocably alter the course of her life. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across her room, mirroring the long, uncertain path that lay ahead. She knew, with a certainty that both thrilled and terrified her, that her life would never be the same. The choice was hers, and the clock was ticking. The weight of that simple choice, a choice presented in a fleeting moment amidst a sea of champagne and polite conversation, was overwhelming. It was a choice that spoke of immense power, immense wealth, and an equally immense unknown. The image of Tariq al-Maktoum, standing apart, observing the world with an unreadable gaze, returned to her. He was a force of nature, and he had extended a hand. Would she take it? The thought of her sister's face, pale and worried, spurred her on. Anya closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. The opulent ballroom, the impossible proposal, the man who had made it, it all felt like a dream. But the card in her hand was real. The decision she had to make was real. And the potential consequences, both good and bad, were very, very real. The night had been a turning point, a moment of radical disruption. Now came the reckoning. The dawn was breaking, and with it, the dawn of a new, uncertain possibility. The whispers of the guests, the disdain in their eyes, had faded in her mind, replaced by a single, powerful question. What if? What if this wasn't a trick? What if this was her destiny? A destiny offered by a man who saw something others didn't. A destiny that could change everything. The weight of the card, small and insignificant, felt like the weight of the world. She turned it over and over in her fingers, the embossed silver lettering a beacon in the dim light. The proposition was audacious, bordering on insane, but the promise of a life free from hardship, a life where Maya could thrive, was an irresistible pull. It was a gamble, yes, but perhaps it was a gamble worth taking. The quiet strength he'd perceived in her, the resilience she'd cultivated through years of struggle, might just be the very tools she needed to navigate this uncharted territory. The night had been a whirlwind, a surreal interruption to her ordinary existence. But the dawn brought clarity, a stark realization that she stood at a precipice, with two paths diverging before her. One led back to the familiar, the arduous, the predictable. The other, shrouded in mystery and uncertainty, offered a chance at a life beyond her wildest dreams. The decision was hers alone, and it was a decision that would echo through eternity. The dawn light, now stronger, illuminated the room, chasing away the shadows of the night. Anya finally made a choice. It was a choice born of desperation, of hope, and of a deep, unwavering love for her sister. The fear was still there, a knot in her stomach, but it was now overshadowed by a quiet resolve. She would take the chance. She would contact him. The thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. She looked at the card one last time. a silent vow forming in her mind. She was Anya, a waitress, a sister, and perhaps, just perhaps, a woman about to embark on the most extraordinary journey of her life. The ball was over, but her story was just beginning. The sheer impossibility of the situation was what made it so compelling. A millionaire, a magnate, a man of immense power, proposing marriage to a waitress. It was the stuff of legends, of Hollywood fantasies. But Anya knew this was not a movie. This was her life, and she had to decide if she was brave enough to rewrite its script. The whispers in the ballroom had been of judgment and disdain, but Anya's internal monologue was now a fierce battle between caution and a nascent, almost reckless, hope. She had always been the responsible one, the one who picked up the pieces, the one who made sure Maya was cared for. This offer, however, was a chance to change the very foundation of their lives, to lift the crushing weight of poverty and illness. It was a chance to give Maya the life she deserved, a life of health, comfort, and joy. The audacity of Al Maktoum's proposal was undeniable. He hadn't wooed her, hadn't courted her. He had simply stated his terms, his expectations, and his offer. It was cold, perhaps, but it was also direct. And in a world often filled with deception and manipulation, his honesty, however brutal, was strangely compelling. Anya looked at her hands, calloused from work, rough from scrubbing. These hands had held Maya through countless nights of fever, had worked tirelessly to make ends meet. Could these same hands, she wondered, learn to wear diamonds? Could she, Anya, a woman defined by her quiet service and her deep-seated sense of duty, transform into the wife of a billionaire? The question was staggering. Yet, the image of Maya's smile, the sound of her laughter, was a constant, driving force. For Maya, she was willing to face the unknown, to step outside her comfort zone, to take a leap of faith. The ballroom, with its dazzling lights and superficial charm, had been a temporary stage for an extraordinary encounter. Now, Anya was left alone with the aftermath, with a decision that would shape her destiny. The black card in her hand was a symbol of both immense risk and immense reward. It was a promise of a life beyond her wildest dreams, and a potential trap from which she might never escape. The dawn was breaking, and with it, Anya knew, her old life was ending. The next chapter was yet unwritten, but she was ready to pick up the pen. The thought of contacting Tariq Al Maktoum sent a tremor of both fear and excitement through her. It was a step into the abyss, a leap of faith into the heart of the unknown. But for Maya, she would do it. She had to. The promise of a better life, a life free from suffering, was too powerful to ignore. The opulent ballroom, the glittering chandeliers, the enigmatic millionaire, it had all been a prelude to this moment. A moment where Anya, the unassuming waitress, had to decide if she was ready to gamble everything for a chance at a different life. The sun was now fully risen, casting a warm glow over her small apartment, a stark contrast to the cold, calculated offer she had received. But the warmth of the sun also represented a new beginning, a chance to embrace the possibilities that lay ahead. The fear lingered, but so did a newfound sense of determination. She would call him. She would take the chance. For Maya, for herself, the game, as they say, was afoot. Anya clutched the card, her fingers tracing the embossed silver. The silence in her small apartment was deafening. Hesitantly, she dialed the number. A calm, deep voice answered on the second ring. Yes? Anya swallowed hard. Mr. Al Maktoum? It's Anya. From the gala? A brief pause. I see. And what is your decision, Anya? I accept, Anya whispered, her voice barely audible, a subtle intake of breath from the other end. Excellent. My driver will be at your residence by morning. Prepare yourself, Anya. Your life is about to change irrevocably. The limousine that arrived the next morning was not merely a car. It was a vessel of transformation. Sleek, black, and impossibly long, it whispered of a world Anya had only glimpsed in magazines. She stood on the cracked pavement outside her small apartment building, her worn suitcase a stark contrast to the vehicle's opulence. Maya, her younger sister, clutched Anya's hand, her eyes wide with a mixture of apprehension and wonder. Anya knelt, her gaze meeting Maya's. You'll be okay here, won't you? Anya said, her voice gentle. Mrs. Gable next door will check in on you every day, and I'll call you as soon as I can. Promise?" Maya nodded, a single tear tracing a path down her cheek. "Will it really be better, Anya? Will you be happy?" Anya forced a smile, a brave facade for her sister. "I hope so, sweetie. For both of us." She hugged Maya tightly, imprinting the feel of her small frame, the scent of her lavender shampoo, against her heart. This was why she was doing this. For Maya. Always for Maya. Stepping into the limousine felt like stepping into another dimension. The interior was plush leather and polished wood, a hushed sanctuary from the bustling city. A chauffeur, impeccably dressed, opened the door and offered a discreet nod. Anya slid onto the seat, the soft material swallowing her whole. She glanced back at Maya, still standing on the sidewalk, a small figure against the backdrop of their old life, and a pang of guilt, sharp and sudden, pierced through her resolve. But then she looked forward, at the smooth, uncluttered dashboard, at the tinted windows promising privacy, and the fear began to recede, replaced by a strange, unsettling calm. The journey was long, taking them far from the city's clamor, past rolling hills and eventually towards the shimmering expanse of the ocean. The estate of Tariq al-Maktoum was not a house. It was a kingdom. Sprawling across acres of manicured grounds, overlooking a private stretch of pristine beach, it was a testament to a level of wealth that defied comprehension. Marble statues dotted the gardens, fountains danced in the sunlight, and the main residence itself was a masterpiece of modern architecture, all glass and sleek lines, seamlessly blending with the natural beauty of its surroundings. Anya was met not by Tariq, but by a woman named Miss Thorne, the estate manager. Miss Thorne was efficient, her demeanor polite but coolly professional. She showed Anya to her quarters, a suite of rooms that dwarfed Anya's entire apartment. It had a bedroom, a sitting area, a vast walk-in closet filled with designer clothes Anya had only seen in shop windows, and a bathroom larger than her living room, complete with a rainfall shower and a soaking tub. "Mr. Al-Maktoum is attending to business," Miss Thorne explained, her voice devoid of emotion. "He will see you this evening. Until then, please make yourself comfortable. Anything you require, simply ask." The days that followed were a blur of new experiences. Anya was introduced to tutors who taught her etiquette, history, art, and the intricacies of global finance. She learned to navigate conversations with grace, to understand the subtle nuances of high society, and to carry herself with a newfound confidence. The clothes she wore were exquisite, tailored to perfection, making her feel like a different person. Yet, beneath the designer silks and the polished veneer, Anya remained, Anya, thoughtful, observant, and carrying the weight of her promise to Maya. She had phone calls with Maya every other day. Her sister sounded happier, healthier, describing her days with Mrs. Gable, the books Anya had left for her, the new friends she was making. Anya's heart swelled with a mixture of relief and a quiet satisfaction. This was working. Maya was safe. Tariq al-Maktoum himself remained an enigma. He would dine with Anya occasionally, their conversations formal yet strangely revealing. He asked about her thoughts on the books she read, her observations about the world, her dreams for Maya. He listened intently, his dark eyes holding a depth that Anya found both intimidating and compelling. He never pried into her past, never questioned her motives for accepting his proposal, and Anya, in turn, respected his privacy. There was a palpable tension between them, an unspoken acknowledgement of the unusual arrangement, but also a growing curiosity, a subtle dance of two individuals from vastly different worlds thrown together by circumstance. One evening, during a quiet dinner on the terrace overlooking the moonlit ocean, Tariq spoke more candidly than he ever had before. "You are adapting well, Anya," he said, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Faster than I anticipated." Anya offered a small smile. "I have a good teacher, sir." He turned to her then, a faint, almost imperceptible softening in his expression. "You are a keen observer, Anya. You see things others miss. That is a rare quality, and it is a quality I value." He paused, a thoughtful silence settling between them. "I chose you not for what you were, but for what you could become, and for what you already possessed, a quiet strength, an inherent decency, and a heart that beats for someone other than yourself. Anya's breath caught in her throat. He saw her. He truly saw her, beyond the uniform, beyond the waitress, beyond the calculated business proposal. He saw the woman beneath. "You have made me a promise, Anya," Tarek continued, his voice low and steady, "and I believe you will keep it. I, in turn, will keep mine. Your sister's well-being is secured. Your own future is assured. This is not merely a marriage of convenience. I hope, in time, it can be a partnership, a true partnership." The word partnership resonated deeply within Anya. It was more than she had ever dared to hope for. She met his gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. The arrangement was still unconventional, the circumstances bizarre, but for the first time, Anya felt a flicker of genuine possibility, a sense of shared purpose. Months turned into a year. Anya, now Mrs. Al Maktoum, moved through her new life with a grace and confidence that surprised even herself. She managed charitable foundations, advised Tariq on social ventures, and dedicated herself to understanding the complex world her husband inhabited. Maya, thriving under the best care, was a constant source of joy and motivation. Anya had not forgotten her roots, nor the sacrifices made to reach this point. She remained grounded, her empathy for those less fortunate never wavering. Tariq, for his part, was a steadfast presence. He was demanding, yes, but also fair. He respected Anya's intelligence and her contributions. Their relationship evolved from a business arrangement into a quiet camaraderie, built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to their respective promises. The opulent ballroom where they had met now seemed like a distant memory, a prologue to a story that was still unfolding. Anya had stepped out of the shadows and into a life of privilege, but she had done so on her own terms, driven by love and a desperate need to protect her sister. The twist in her story wasn't just about wealth or a sudden elevation in status. It was about finding strength in unexpected places, about daring to believe in a future beyond the confines of circumstance, and about the quiet, epic journey of a woman who dared to accept an impossible offer. She had arrived as Anya, the waitress. She was now Anya Al Maktoum, the wife of a billionaire. But more importantly, she was Anya, a woman who had faced an extraordinary challenge and emerged stronger, wiser, and more capable than she ever imagined. The journey was far from over. The future still held its share of unknowns, but Anya now stood ready to face it, not as a pawn of fate, but as a player in her own unfolding destiny. The story of the Arab millionaire and the female waitress had a beginning, a middle, and a twist that redefined everything. It was a story of ambition, of desperation, of unexpected connection, and ultimately, of a woman's quiet resilience in the face of an unimaginable proposition. The foundation of their relationship, while unconventional, was proving to be surprisingly stable. Tariq Al Maktoum, a man who dealt in billions and commanded global markets, had sought not a trophy wife, but a partner. Anya, the former waitress, had delivered more than he could have anticipated. Her innate empathy, honed by years of observing the struggles of ordinary people, gave her a unique perspective that Tariq, often insulated by his wealth, lacked. She championed causes that resonated with her past, establishing foundations that provided healthcare and education to underserved communities, mirroring the very struggles she had once faced. Maya, her sister, was the living embodiment of Anya's success. No longer confined to a sterile hospital room, Maya was a vibrant, healthy young woman, pursuing her passion for art, her laughter a constant melody in Anya's life. Anya ensured Maya never felt the weight of her sister's new life, maintaining a grounded connection to their shared past. Their marriage, initially a contract, began to forge genuine bonds. Shared dinners became conversations filled with mutual respect and burgeoning affection. Tariq found himself drawn to Anya's quiet wisdom, her unwavering integrity, and her genuine kindness. He had built an empire, but Anya was building something far more profound, a life filled with purpose and connection. He saw in her a reflection of values he rarely encountered in his world: humility, compassion, and a quiet strength that needed no outward validation. The opulent world of Tariq Al Maktoum, once intimidating, now felt like home to Anya. She navigated its complexities with a natural ease, her tutor's lessons ingrained, her own intelligence blossoming under the opportunities she was given. She learned to read people, not for their social standing, but for their true character, a skill that served her well in her philanthropic endeavors. She understood the subtle manipulations of power, the hidden agendas, and the genuine struggles that lay beneath the polished surface of society. One crisp autumn evening, as they strolled through the estate's gardens, illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns, Tarek stopped and turned to Anya. "Do you ever regret it, Anya?" he asked, his voice quiet, tinged with a vulnerability she rarely heard. "The choice you made that night?" Anya looked up at him, the moonlight catching the thoughtful expression on her face. She thought of her small apartment, of the endless worry, of Maya's pale face in the hospital bed. She thought of the fear and uncertainty that had gripped her that night. Then she looked around her, at the beautiful gardens, at the man beside her who, in his own complex way, had become a partner, and at the life she had built, a life where Maya was safe and thriving. "No, Tariq," Anya said, her voice clear and steady. "I don't regret it. It was a terrifying leap of faith, but it was the right one. For Maya, and for me." She paused, a gentle smile gracing her lips. "You offered me the world, and in return, you asked for a marriage. What I found was something more. A partnership, a chance to make a difference. And a life I never imagined." Tariq reached out, his hand gently covering hers. It was a gesture that spoke volumes, a silent acknowledgement of their journey, of the unexpected bond that had formed between them. He had sought a wife for practical reasons, but he had found a companion, an equal, and a woman who saw beyond his wealth and power to the man beneath. Anya, the waitress, had not only been made the richest woman in the world in terms of material possessions, but she had also enriched her own life, and Tariq's, in ways money could never buy. The twist of fate, initiated by an audacious proposal in a glittering ballroom, had led not to a gilded cage, but to a life of purpose, partnership, and profound fulfillment. Their story, so dramatically begun, was a testament to the unpredictable nature of life, the power of a single choice, and the surprising places where true connection could be found. It was a tale that proved that sometimes, the most epic twists are not about sudden riches, but about the quiet, profound transformation of the human heart. The narrative of Anya and Tariq al-Maktoum, which began with a startling proposition in an opulent ballroom, continued to unfold not as a simple rags to riches tale, but as a complex exploration of identity, purpose, and unconventional partnership. Anya, the waitress who had been offered a marriage for pragmatic reasons, had transcended the superficiality of her new life. She hadn't merely become rich, she had become empowered. Her deep-seated empathy, a trait forged in the crucible of her past struggles, proved to be her greatest asset. She channeled her newfound influence and resources into philanthropic endeavors that directly addressed the issues she had once faced. Under her guidance, the Al Maktoum Foundation became a beacon of hope, providing comprehensive medical care for children with chronic illnesses, a cause deeply personal to Anya due to Maya's history. She also established educational programs in impoverished communities, believing that knowledge was the true key to breaking cycles of poverty. These initiatives weren't mere charitable gestures, they were meticulously planned, data-driven projects, reflecting Anya's sharp intellect and her practical approach to problem-solving, qualities that Tariq himself had recognized and valued. Tariq, initially a man driven by business acumen and a desire for a suitable companion, found himself increasingly drawn to Anya's passion and her unwavering commitment to making a tangible difference. He had seen many individuals chase wealth and status, but Anya's dedication to alleviating suffering was a revelation. Their conversations, once polite exchanges about daily affairs, evolved into discussions about global economics, social policy, and the ethical responsibilities that came with immense power. Anya, with her grounded perspective, often challenged Tariq's more pragmatic, business-minded views, offering insights that were both compassionate and strategically sound. Their relationship, built on the precarious foundation of a conditional proposal, deepened into a genuine alliance. They were partners not just in name, but in purpose. Tariq learned to appreciate Anya's quiet strength, her resilience, and her ability to connect with people on a human level, something that often eluded him in his high-stakes business dealings. Anya, in turn, found in Tariq a man of integrity, a formidable intellect, and, beneath his reserved exterior, a surprisingly supportive partner who genuinely valued her contributions. He had not just given her wealth. He had given her a platform, a voice, and the respect she deserved. Maya, the catalyst for Anya's extraordinary journey, flourished. The support she received through the Al Maktoum Foundation enabled her to pursue her artistic talents with fervor. Her artwork, infused with the vibrant colors of her recovery and the quiet depth of her experiences, began to gain recognition. Anya often attended Maya's exhibitions, a proud sister beaming from the crowd, her heart overflowing with gratitude for the life they now shared. Maya's success was the most profound testament to the validity of Anya's decision, proving that the gamble had paid off not just in material wealth, but in the profound restoration of her sister's health and happiness. The narrative of Anya and Tariq was not a fairy tale devoid of challenges. The transition into a world of immense privilege was demanding, and Anya often had to navigate complex social dynamics and the lingering skepticism of those who saw her only as the waitress who married the billionaire. However, her innate dignity and her unwavering focus on her purpose allowed her to rise above the gossip and the judgment. She proved, time and again, that her intelligence, her compassion, and her strength of character were her true assets, far more valuable than any material possession. The initial shock of Tariq Al Maktoum's audacious proposal had been the catalyst. The twist in the story wasn't merely the elevation from poverty to unimaginable wealth, but the transformation of a pragmatic contract into a meaningful partnership. Anya had entered the marriage seeking security for her sister, but she had found something far more enduring: purpose, respect, and a profound sense of self-worth. She had proven that the most epic twists in life often lie not in sudden fortune, but in the quiet, persistent courage to seize an improbable opportunity and build a life of meaning, one decision, one act of kindness, one partnership at a time. Her journey was a powerful reminder that true wealth lies not just in what one possesses, but in the impact one makes on the world and the genuine connections forged along the way. The story of the Arab millionaire and the waitress was, in essence, a story of two individuals from vastly different worlds, finding common ground, mutual respect, and a shared vision for a better future, all beginning with a single, life-altering question posed amidst the glittering facade of a charity gala. The narrative of Anya and Tariq Al Maktoum serves as a compelling illustration of how destiny can be shaped by audacious choices and the unexpected evolution of human connection. What began as a pragmatic agreement, a billionaire's peculiar proposition to a humble waitress, blossomed into a partnership founded on mutual respect and shared purpose. Anya, who once served drinks in opulent ballrooms, now orchestrated charitable initiatives that touched thousands of lives, driven by the empathy and resilience she had cultivated during her years of struggle. Her focus remained unwavering, ensuring Maya's health and happiness, and extending that same hope to others facing similar adversities. Tariq, the enigmatic magnate, found in Anya a counterpart who grounded his ambitions in compassion. Her insights, born from lived experience, provided a vital human perspective to his often impersonal business decisions. He learned that true wealth wasn't solely measured in financial assets, but in the positive impact one could create. Anya's influence transformed his philanthropic efforts from mere corporate social responsibility into a deeply personal mission. Their marriage, far from being a superficial arrangement, became a testament to their combined strengths, a synergy that propelled both their personal lives and their shared ventures to new heights. The critics and skeptics who had initially questioned Anya's position gradually faded into the background as her genuine contributions and her unwavering integrity became undeniable. She proved that her worth extended far beyond her marital status or her husband's fortune. She was a force for positive change, a testament to the idea that a person's character, not their circumstances, defines their true potential. Maya, no longer a symbol of hardship but a beacon of recovery and artistic talent, flourished under the unwavering support of her sister and the resources made available through Anya's advocacy. Her journey from illness to vibrant health and creative expression was Anya's most cherished achievement, a constant reminder of why she had dared to accept the impossible offer. In the grand tapestry of life, Anya and Tarek's story is a vibrant thread, demonstrating that true fulfillment often lies not in the predictable paths, but in the audacious leaps of faith. The twist in their tale wasn't a sudden acquisition of wealth, but the profound discovery of shared purpose and a deep, evolving love built on mutual admiration and respect. It's a narrative that challenges conventional notions of success and happiness, suggesting that the most epic outcomes can arise from the most unlikely of beginnings, proving that sometimes the greatest treasures are not found in gilded coffers, but in the quiet strength of the human spirit and the transformative power of a life-altering choice. What do you think of Anya's incredible journey? Did she make the right choice? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring stories.